My Stirling single Part 37, working on the tender wheels in the kitchen and main workshop. In my kitchen, like most people, on the draining board, I have an ultrasonic cleaner. And here I'm filling it with water. What I normally do is let the kitchen tap run for a while until the water's very hot. Then all I have to do is pour the water from the pan into the ultrasonic cleaner. I'm also boiling some water in my electric kettle, in an attempt to further increase the temperature in the ultrasonic cleaner. This is the stuff I'm going to add to the water. It's called Carbiosonic EP24R. I have found that some of these liquids to use in ultrasonic cleaners actually attack the metal, but this one doesn't. A while ago I was cleaning up a Stuart Double 10, and by putting it in this mixture it removed the paint, so I'm really hoping that it's going to do the same with the paint on the wheels. I've set the temperature to reach a maximum of 65 degrees, and I'm going to run the cleaner about 4 times, 30 minutes each time. You can hear that the machine is now working. I can't really do much until the ultrasonic cleaner's done what it's supposed to do. I've boiled some more water in the kettle and I'm making a cup of tea. It's not a particularly good cup of tea, but it's adequate for the time being. This clip shows me in the new workshop extension, and I'm having a quick look at the condition of the paintwork on the frames, trying to think, should I rub it down, should I get it shot blasted, should I put it in cellulose thinners? But no, I think it'll be okay as it is. Just a light rub down with some Scotch-Brite. Here are the wheels after an hour and a half in the ultrasonic cleaner. The paint is loose, but it's not falling off like it did before on the Double 10. Either this is higher quality paint than the paint that was on the Double 10, or maybe it's because there isn't any primer underneath it. The green paint has been painted directly onto the cast iron. I'm in the main workshop now, and I've filled a polythene tub with cellulose thinners, and I'm now going to immerse the wheels in this cellulose thinners for 24 hours. I would like to mention that in the USA this stuff is called lacquer thinner. It's very smelly, and it's a good idea to do this in a very well ventilated environment. I'm using my old toothbrush to help the job along, and the paint really is falling off these wheels quite quickly. But I'm only really playing with the job at the moment. I just need to leave these in this mixture for quite a long time. I'm working on a few different projects at the same time, and these 2 side panels are from the How to Build a Stuart Model Steam Plant series. These newly painted side panels were quite near to where I was working with the cellulose thinners, so to avoid splashing them, I moved them out of the way. Here in the outer part of the workshop, I've painted the underside of the boiler's mounting base. And then, as if by magic, it's 24 hours later. I know this because the cellulose thinners in the plastic tub has actually turned a nice shade of green, and now the paint is coming off the parts really easily. While I'm doing this job, which is very simple indeed, I'm going to relate a story from many years ago. If you've been watching my recent videos, you may have noticed that I've mentioned about going into hospital for a spot of surgery. That is, if I decide not to do the surgery myself, using my superb battery-operated Proxon motor tool fitted with its long flexible drive. But the more I think about that, the more I think it's not a very good idea. I also mentioned in a previous video that the only time I've ever been in hospital in my life was after a car accident in the mid-70s when the car hit an oak tree. While I'm removing the last traces of green paint with the wire brush in my Proxon motor tool, I'll tell you what happened. In a previous life, when I was a young man, I was a professional musician, playing Hammond organ and various keyboards in a trio. And at the time of the accident, I was working on a summer season in a place called Osmington Bay in Dorset, which is a really beautiful place. This holiday camp at Osmington Bay was a Pontins holiday camp, and as we were the band members, we were not allowed to have a chalet on the camp. Instead, we stopped in a pub in Dorchester, and we had to travel to and from the camp every day. But unfortunately, one evening, the saxophone player, who was the driver of the car, was showing off, and the car left the road and hit the biggest oak tree I've ever seen. In those days, there were no seat belts. I saw the accident coming, turned sideways on, put my arm over the back of the seat, and pushed my foot firmly against the parcel shelf, Then the car hit the tree at about 40 miles an hour. I ended up banging my head on the corner pillar of the windscreen, the door handle stuck in my back, and I broke my leg very badly. After a while on the holiday camp trying to make the best of it, I had to come back up home to West Yorkshire to recuperate. I was in plaster for 6 months. And everyone else in the accident just had minor cuts and bruises, but I was fairly badly damaged, and banging my head on that corner pillar had a lasting effect, I think. That's why I build model steam engines. I always did like to live life on the edge, but that was a bit too close for comfort. Anyway, most of the paint is now removed from the first set of wheels, and I'm on the second set. You'll be pleased to know that I'm only going to show the cleaning up process on one set of the wheels. I've fitted them into the 3-jaw chuck of my Myford lathe, and at the other end I'm going to use a dead centre. Why am I using a dead centre? Well, just to show you that you don't have to use a live centre. A live centre has a bearing and rotates, whereas this one doesn't, so therefore the component needs some lubrication. All I have to do now is spin the part and use a piece of emery cloth as shown to clean all the rust off the axle, and go back and forth until the axle is nice and shiny and rust free. This doesn't take very long at all. I would normally use a live centre for this job, but I've lost it. I don't know how I've managed to lose it. I have another one on my Boxford lathe, but I refuse to use that to teach myself a lesson about how not to lose live centres. It's somewhere very close to this Myford lathe, but I couldn't find it on the day I made this video. And besides, with the small amount of good quality lubricant, the dead centre's been perfectly fine. Here I'm carefully cleaning up the treads of the wheels. I don't really need to do this because the treads are unimportant. I need to clean up the fronts though, as I'm showing here. Apart from removing any paint that may be left and any spots of rust, it's a good key for the paint because I am going to paint these very shortly. When I paint these parts, I'm also going to paint the treads, and then the removal of the paint from the treads will be a simple job of putting it back in the lathe as you see here, and using the thin piece of emery cloth to remove the paint from the treads. When I was having a close look at the wheel that I'd finished cleaning in the lathe, I noticed that there were 1 or 2 spots on the spokes that needed cleaning up, and I'm doing that using a needle file. Obviously, using a file is causing some metal particles to drop onto other parts of the casting, so after I'd done the job, I dropped the part in the cellulose thinners again just to wash everything off. Once the solvent had evaporated, it was time for the painting. It's into the outer part of the workshop and I'm using my painting jig. This is a painting jig I made for painting 5-inch gauge wheels. I'm going to paint the wheel set in stages using high build etching primer. I can only paint the top surface of one wheel and the inside surface of the other one. This painting jig has proved to be very useful. It holds the wheels in such a position that you can apply plenty of paint, but you don't get any runs or sags. The only problem is, of course, to do the other side I have to wait until the paint's dried, then I turn the wheel set over, which is no big problem. While I'm waiting for this wheel to dry, I'll carry on cleaning the other ones, and here you see the second one's already been cleaned and painted. 2 down and 1 to go. Once I've removed the paint thoroughly and cleaned up the third wheel, I'll give it the same treatment. But that's enough cleaning and painting for this episode. I'd just like to say stay safe, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Main Steam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.